because how many people are watching us?
Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt TC here with life coach Tom Wells and our doctor of thinkology, Alyx King. It's Friday, January the 25th, 2019, 8 a.m. New York time, 5 a.m. in Los Angeles, 1 p.m. in London, and Sydney, Australia is at midnight, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us for yet another edition of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And I am still setting things up here, but I think I've got most of it going. That's the good thing. How you guys doing? Alyx and I talked on Tuesday, but of course Friday is the only time I get to talk to you, Tom. So I'll start with you. How's it going?
Yeah. Well, it's going good. Got a little bit of snow here finally. That's fantastic, you know. Yeah, so the fourth time this whole season we've gotten some snow.
Wow.
And I get excited because then I think, oh, good, the trees are going to survive. You know, I'm always into the trees.
Well, it seems crazy. I mean, you live in Boulder, Colorado. This is like snow central, and you only have this little amount of snow this year. It seems amazing to me.
Yeah, it is. I mean, but it's been happening that more and more every year we get less. I mean, less and less every year we get less.
Less and less every year.
Oh God, I just blew that. But me personally, what's that?
You blew it beautifully.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, I know. I like watching Stephen Colbert because he's such a good improviser. You know, he came out of a huge background of acting and improvising, but he's a master improviser. And that's why he does that show so well. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's making him millions, you know, just that he developed that art and he's so good at it. I do some comedy improv sometimes and it really takes a lot to be super present like that. And
yeah, it does.
And be funny, right? You know,
yeah.
Alyx, because you're one of those. Have you done comedy improv, Alyx?
I have, yeah.
Yeah? Cool.
I was in an improv group in high school.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
So you could say that's where my comedy career began, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when you found out that you were funny? Or you always knew that, maybe?
I always knew.
You were funny when you were a little girl?
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
So then I got to ask, how are you doing? I mean, it's been a whole 3 days since I talked to you, Alyx, but how's it going at your end?
Things are going good. I organized a lot of stuff. I cleaned a lot of stuff. I did a whole makeover situation. I gave myself a facial, did my eyebrows, you know, a lot of maintenance going on this week.
Very good. Very good. Well, you know, sometimes you just got to maintain to keep going, but it's whatever it takes to get into that happy, positive, good feeling, appreciative zone, and if maintenance will get you there,
exactly.
Then, hey, you know, I'm all for it. That's excellent.
Are we recording?
How are you doing, Walt?
I'm doing fine. You're right. I never actually turned the recording on. I'll do that right now.
I know.
So here we go. Yes. Well, that's why I have you here. You always remind me of these things.
Recording has started.
So, yeah, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And people are flowing into the chat area, too. Lots of people saying hello, good morning, how you doing, all that kind of stuff. So that's great.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Good morning.
Night.
Hi, how are you? Hi,
See you
how
all
are
next
you?
time? No. And we're kind of at loose ends in terms of a topic today, so I figure we'll just do more of what we did last week because it worked so well. We'll just, you know, come up with questions ourselves to address and topics and, you know, little things to talk about that we run into on a daily basis. So, I mean, if you're listening to the live stream, by all means, type in any questions that you want us to talk about. We'll be glad to do it. And meantime, we'll just come up with a few ourselves to talk about because that worked really well last week, I thought. I don't know about you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
So my first question is, Alyx, what is that behind you? I know that's not an LOA question.
Oh,
what is that behind you?
This is actually the backside of our wine rack. It's like a wine rack, but it's like it holds glasses up top. So on this side is the living room. So we have pictures of my niece on this side, and then on the other side is the kitchen. So that's where all the wine and wine glasses are.
Okay, I thought maybe it was like a family shrine or something because I saw the photos there and I saw all the the architecture. I'm thinking there's got to be something special going on there. But okay, that makes sense.
No, we just like collecting cool stuff.
You just collect cool stuff. Oh, that's okay. That's good. And you were mentioning before we got started that Tom has changed his background around, so we're just doing this whole background thing today.
Yeah. I'm sitting in a different chair that gives me more staying power.
Well, plus you're also
a
star.
I tend to fall asleep during the Codcast.
The Codcast?
The Codcast. Me and Tom have the same star.
Yeah.
Same star?
Yeah, that he has hanging. Yeah, I have.
In her bedroom,
Yeah.
How'd you manage to do that? I'm curious. Is that just another law of attraction?
I got mine in New Hampshire. It was a gift from my mom when she went on vacation. I actually had 3 of them.
I got mine in a cool shop in Boulder. Because there's lots of cool shops in Boulder, with all kinds of that stuff. And this was one of those shops that sells things from all over the world that are fair trade items. This is some kind of a fair trade item. I don't know where from, but Indonesia or somewhere like that.
Okay.
Cool.
It's really cool. It's really cool. Yeah, if you want, I could go and give you a close-up of it and... Nah.
No, I think we ought to get to the meat and
the questions.
Yeah, get to the good stuff.
The law of attraction.
Yeah. So, all right, who's going first today? I'm not even going to assign it. I'll just say who's got the first question. We'll see who pops up their hand up. Alyx has got her hand up. Go, Alyx.
Ding.
Okay. What do you do when you get angry?
A good question, and it happens every single week for some people. It happens every single hour for some people. So yeah, that can be a pretty important thing. Probably the answer is not to bury it, because when you bury it, all you do is just make it continue to haunt you for the rest of your life. So we'll kind of rule that answer out entirely. Actually, you know what I do? I do what they call the walking meditation. I literally get up and I just start walking around, working out the energy. That's my way of getting it out. And if I'm really, really angry, then I'll grumble and maybe even shout something. But I try to make it a point not to direct my anger at a person. I try to direct it at the wall or at a tree or I know, poor tree, but something other than a human being, just so that they don't feel like I'm angry at them or that it's all their fault or whatever. But yeah,
right.
That explains the flat spot on your forehead. Hitting those trees, hitting those walls.
Oh, no, he didn't.
I'm speechless.
That was fantastic. Oh, the shade is real.
So, with that answer in mind, I'm going to pass it along to you, Tom. What do you do when you're angry?
I don't get angry. I stuff it. No, I think I did learn at a really early age to stuff it because it wasn't okay in my family. Only my mother could get angry. My dad would get angry in really kind of a repressed way, where he would take it all inside and then he would see the steam coming out of his ears, but he wouldn't let it out. So I kind of learned to not let it out. So I think I just sort of internalized it, and I'm trying to let it out more these days. I'm trying to let myself at least notice that I'm angry. I like it when I say to myself, "Oh, I'm angry," because I'm pretty even keeled kind of guy. So if I do feel it, I want to know that I'm angry and let myself, if I can, let myself express it, not to necessarily to anybody else, but at least myself. Hit my head on a
You probably
wall.
deal with it just because you're a life coach. I mean, you're dealing with individuals and their personal stuff every day, and I imagine anger comes up a lot in that context as well. So even if you're not dealing with your own, you're often helping somebody else deal with theirs.
Yeah, it's pretty common. I mean, a lot of people don't overtly talk about their anger. I think a lot of people do try to repress it, actually. But I do hear about it, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
So how about our audience? Is anybody?
Well, that's a good point. Let's see. Nasha says anger bottled up can make for serious health issues. Boy, is that the case. That's really
Facts.
true. Yeah. And William says, Bill G's tuned in. That's great. Anger is generally due to an unmet expectation. So you need to first determine what your unmet expectation is, and then you can start to deal with it on an internal level. That's
I like that answer.
Yeah. That's very, very good. I wish there was an emoji for a star. I don't have a star emoji, but that's all right. I'll give him a heart.
Well, you give everybody emojis who calls in, who checks
Well,
in?
I try to like people's comments to partially like them and partially just to let them know, yes, we see you. And, you're acknowledged, because I think acknowledgement is really important.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, and it's not on the topic of anger. It's actually on the topic of joy. Siraj is saying he had another successful presentation. This time they grabbed...
Oh, congratulations.
This time they grabbed 436 new client prospects out of one presentation. Holy
Nice.
cow.
That's awesome. You must have been to a pretty big crowd.
I think it was over 1,000, if I remember right. But even so,
Yeah.
that's
he talked about talking to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great response.
That's an incredible response rate. Well, so congratulations. That's really a
He must be a good speaker.
Oh, yeah. Really, really well done.
That is great. That is great news.
It's amazing what you can do, first of all, when you're not angry, and second of all, when you're in that good frame of mind and you're believing and you're just putting out there everything's going to work out, and then it does. That's like,
Yeah, that's wonderful.
yeah, that's really, really good stuff.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So, I don't see any other comments about anger. How about you, Alyx? You brought up the question. What's your solution on, what do you do when you get angry?
It depends on why I'm angry. I like, what was it? Was it Jeffrey that gave that great answer?
Oh, that was Bill. That was Bill G.
Bill G. I like his figure out why your unmet expectation is. Cause that speaks volumes.
It does.
Cause it's so true. It's like, oh, that is the reason.
Yep.
But what do I do when I'm angry? I take the Walt route and I do the walking meditation. Literally, I do the walking meditation thing. Like I'll walk around the house. I'll find something else to do. Try to take my mind off of it. But at the same time, like I'll stomp it out. If I have gotten really angry once and actually punched a wall. So,
ooh, ouch.
Yeah, but yeah.
Who got hurt more, you or the
it
wall?
I studied karate for years, so I know the right way to punch. So it doesn't hurt.
Wow.
So the wall took the brunt of that one. Yeah.
And the wall didn't get hurt either.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Now, if I had kicked the wall, there would have been a problem. There would have been some holes to fill.
Yep. It reminds me of something that happened when I was quite young, and it was when I was still a churchgoer. I was like probably 10, 11 years old, and my cousins were roughhousing near me. I was just standing near a wall. I don't remember exactly what happened, but one of them kind of careened into me. I slammed into the wall, and there was a huge Walt mark in the wall from where he slammed me.
Walt mark?
And I'm thinking, I was just standing here.
A Walt mark. That's great.
Yeah. I never heard of those. Something Walt knows about. Oh, it's a Walt mark.
Well, it was like the shape of my
6
body.
feet high, 6 feet 6.
From where
6 feet 8.
Yeah.
Been shoved into the drywall. The drywall just didn't handle it, and there it was, a Walt mark.
Yeah.
So clearly, we're not having any anger issues this morning. This is a happy comedy fest going on. But let's see if we can go on to our second question. Maybe we can get back to something a little more serious, and then see if we can turn that into something funny. So, Tom, you got a question for us that we can address?
I got an interesting one that I'm sort of addressing. How do you listen to your intuition?
That's a good question.
And act on your intuition.
I know.
So I'm curious how different people do that.
I know for myself, that was actually an issue for quite some time because I wasn't really sure when I was hearing my inner voice. And even now, I'm not always sure. it wasn't until I heard the very direct and specific and blunt explanation from Abraham that your feelings are your intuition. Whatever your emotional and even sensory feelings are clues from your inner being, what I call my inner world. That this is how I feel about whatever it is that you're focusing on. And once I got that, then I kind of relaxed, because then I realized, well, I am getting an intuitive message, and it's one that I can read consistently because I know how I feel. So, oh, good. I thought I'd lost all contact with my inner self. But nobody was ever answering. I thought, well, it turns out they've been answering all along. I just didn't realize it. So,
yeah,
that's my method: connecting to the emotions.
Okay.
How about you, Alyx?
I think for women, it's a lot easier because we're like born with intuition, so we're always listening to it. Whereas like, let me think. I don't know what, if you're like in a situation, or if you're in a relationship and you have a feeling that something's wrong, and we're always listening to that inner voice, and sometimes it can get us in trouble, and sometimes we don't listen to it, and yet that can get us in trouble. So, but yeah, I think for women it's a lot easier because I listen to my inner Alyx all the time.
Does it show up in your body, or would you say it's mainly in your head? Or
I feel like it's all over. Because like if someone's near me and I feel like they may be mad at me or something, I get like overheated. Like I feel warm all over, and I'm like, okay, I'm feeling like you're a little miffed. What's going on?
But you get it in your body. Yeah, that's cool.
But it all translates to your brain eventually because you have to process what the feeling is. So.
Yeah, I feel like I feel it in my body, and it's like an or an It's like just sort of a sense of, I want to go with this, or I don't want to go with that. I've been practicing it for the last several years because Abraham originally talked about it so much about, are you following your impulse? There's impulse that comes from source, and I feel like that's so key to my doing with my life what I really want to do with it is if I'm following an impulse as opposed to following an analytical, decision. Because sometimes those things that, to notice the difference between if I'm struggling with what my decision is or is it flowing, and when it's flowing, I feel like that's when I know that I'm doing the thing that feels like the next best thing to do. You know what I mean? Like sometimes just something will call me and to read something or to get on the internet and check something out, and I'll just kind of know in my whole body it feels right to be doing that. And I'm questioning it less and less, I'm going with the impulse.
I was just realizing
always go with your intuition.
I was just realizing that a lot of the time, this sounds strange, a lot of the time my inner world gives me the silent treatment. And by that I mean there are many times where my inside will disagree with what I'm focusing on or choosing or thinking about or considering, and it will initially manifest, if you will, by just what I'm calling the silent treatment. I'm not getting any answer, and then if I really push it, it starts to feel like a inside, and if I really push it, it starts to feel even more like an inside. So the message is there, but it's so subtle that I very often miss it. So that's why I call it the silent treatment, because it feels like I'm not getting anything at all.
Or maybe it's so subtle because you were doing the right thing in the first place, so you didn't even need it.
Possibly, but what I found is when it's something that is the right thing, I actually get a strong feeling, a surge of whoa, that feels good. That feels really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's more like the on-off switch of if it's on, then it's yes. If it's off, or it's like then it's no.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been spending the last 5 years or so learning to slow down, and to not always feel like I have to always have an agenda, and that's a good way then to, in those spaces of slowing down, to see what voices are speaking to me in terms of what do I really want to be doing in terms of action? Because sometimes action is just not really required as much as we think it is. There's a lot more room to just be. Our world is designed, so much to be active, to be accomplishing something and be productive and show up in the world with all these results, But I think a lot of that is conditioned. And we don't have to be that way so much. The whole society could benefit by slowing down, I think, a bunch. And then you listen and you see, like, if we lived out in nature, what would nature be saying to us,
Right.
They say the average, like, anthropologists say the average indigenous tribe, I don't know if there's this actual, statistic, but they say that they work maybe 3 hours a day, anything they could call work that they're actually doing. Everything else is chilling. They're maybe, preparing food or, just hanging out, singing, dancing. I think we try way too hard in our modern culture to produce results.
Yeah, good point. Very good point. Bill G had another insightful comment. He says, I was dealing with a client this week who was going through a very dark time, and at moments I really didn't have a clue what to do. So what I did was I allowed things to happen the way it was supposed to go, as guided by his higher self. And I was able to say the right things, and the things actually worked out in the end. And I know exactly what he's talking about, because I've done the same thing here on the podcast. I mean, there have been times where I really had no idea where the podcast was going to go next. And, whoever my co-host was looked at me like, okay, where are we going next? And I'm thinking, I haven't the faintest idea. But I just kind of went with it, and, it would go into a really cool direction. So
that's intuition. Yeah,
yeah, I guess that is, isn't it? Because
you get an impulse, and those impulses come subtly sometimes. We don't even realize that we are being guided, I love that question. I think it was in some Abraham stuff I was reading where they said, how do you know that the thoughts coming in your head, that you're generating them, or that they're actually could be coming from source? And you don't know. Unless you stop and listen and slow down and start to realize maybe I'm not creating everything so much as I think I am. Maybe a lot of this is being orchestrated for me in some kind of a divine way. There's something wonderful happening here that I'm just trying too hard to be in control.
I have noticed that there is I guess you might call it a geographical signal that often tells me which it is, whether it's me creating it in my own mind, or if it's something that I'm getting from my internal Walt or higher self or whatever you want to call it. And that is, if I'm generating it, I find it's more up here. If I'm just getting it, it's more down here. So there's like a different location. And if I can pay, when I can pay attention to that, that's when I have a better sense of where's this thing coming from? Did I just make this thing up? What is it?
Yeah.
So, that's another clue. I think that really comes down to what do you find works for you? Because everybody's going to have their own way of identifying what their intuitions are. And that's more like trial and error. It's more like just trying it out and seeing and testing that. Well, that didn't quite work right, until you find what the pattern is that works for you. Because it's got to be different for everybody. We're all different people.
Right.
Yeah. I find it helps to be asking myself, am I listening, and am I feeling truly receptive to receiving impulses that are coming to me? Or, am I struggling? Because when I'm struggling and trying, I don't notice impulses at all, really. It's like, it's all like on my shoulders. But when I say, I just want to be listening and receiving, I love that feeling. Then I get better dreams, all kinds of things happen that open me up to what's going on in my body. I for years, I never really asked that question. And now I heard this thing saying your body is your subconscious. Your body is your unconscious. So whatever you ever want to know what's going on with your unconscious, just see what's going on in your body. It's telling you a lot, but we've got to learn to listen.
A couple more comments from our audience. Shelley said, "You are the source, so it's all good," which is an interesting point. I mean, even if you feel like you're generating your thoughts, you're still connected to source, so Yeah, that's valid. Bill G agreed
Good
with that.
point.
And Bill also added, your best thoughts and or insights generally come from your angels and or higher self. How you interpret that and integrate it into your life is all on you. And that's another piece of it too, because it's not just what message are we getting, is what does it mean to us? And that's going to be, again, very individualistic. Everybody's going to have a different interpretation of what they get because it's for them and it's about them and it's their own experience. So how could it be the same message for everybody? It would be impossible.
Yeah. It's constant.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that brings up another question that I had today, which was, do you feel like your angels or your guides or your source, your sense of source is within you, or do you feel that it's far away from you? Because, I grew up with the idea that God, is some kind of this omnipresent being, and of course there was the childhood idea of the guy with the long white beard who lives in heaven, and he's looking down on us and he's up there and it's a he, and anyway, all that stuff, right? And now it's like I feel like I'm spending huge amount of my life to just allow myself to accept the fact that source is within me, as one of our listeners just said, source is actually in me, and I'm not like trying to receive a signal from some distant planet, where source is beaming out this message to me, and I'm stuck on the earth and I'm trying to figure out things. It's a whole change when we start seeing source as literally inside of us. Do you guys see source? Alyx, do you see sources inside of you?
I see it as both, like an inside voice and an outside force, in the same way. I don't know how to explain it. But I guess it depends on the situation. It depends on what I need at the time, where I pull from.
Yeah, I'm kind of
like
with
if
you.
Go ahead, Walt.
I'm kind of with you. I mean, if you ask me, is source inside, I'll say yes. If you ask me if source is outside, I'll say yes. And to me, there's not a whole lot of difference. It's not so much where is it, it's what am I detecting and where am I detecting it? Yeah. What am I feeling? What am I experiencing? That's more, I think, of what it's about. But I mean, if you think about the fact that from what we're taught, and I believe it's true, both from a mystic spiritual point of view and from a quantum physics point of view, that source energy creates matter by thought process, and the vibration process more precisely, and that as vibration happens, matter gets created, kind of gets formed, becomes solid, and so forth. Well, as long as that's the case, then source is everywhere. Because it's not like source energy disappears after it becomes matter. It just kind of holds the form of matter for a while, maybe a long while. But it's still holding the form of matter, and that means it's still source energy. So actually, the better question is there any place where there isn't source? And I think the answer is no.
Right. I think, and to me, the question is why am I perceiving it the way I'm perceiving it? I mean, if I'm laying there in bed at night and I'm struggling with some question, or some feeling that I feel alone in trying to figure out where's source, So it's almost like if I don't accept that source is there and somehow open myself to it, then I can feel alone in my problem. Feel like I'm this individual being who struggles with my own challenges, and in the eyes of source, that's not the way it is, and that supposedly, our emotions are simply to show us if we're aligning with the way source is seeing it or not. So if we're feeling angry or sad or fearful, that's a sign that source is not seeing it that way, and it's hard for me to not think of source as this outside force, like the old idea of God almost. But it really isn't that. I know it really is inside of me. It really is who I am. And, it's a big shift for me to really understand that I'm source. I am my higher self. There isn't really a higher and a lower self. There's just self, then self with a capital S. There's with this whole idea of the small self and the large self and the ego, being this diminutive person who struggles and I mean, it divides it all up too much. It's like, I'd rather just see it in its entirety somehow. So, that's why I feel like I have to surrender so I can listen and receive and understand that I'm not this separate being who's struggling here, you know. That's an illusion, you know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Nasha's asking me to explain what I meant when I said that source is both inside and outside. And again, it comes down to this, Nasha. It comes down to what creates matter. I mean, we think of matter as something to create with, but what creates matter? From my perspective, that's how I know that source is both within and without, because the without is the matter area. It's the physical world, right? And in that physical world, you got objects, you know, you got things, and these things we know are mostly empty space, you know, little tiny bits of subatomic particles and so forth. But it's mostly empty space, and yet that empty space feels solid to us. That's because it originally, in my view, is source energy that has been molded by thought process, by vibrational process, into these various pieces of matter. Well, that means it's still source. I mean, in fact, that's actually very consistent with the Einstein theory, Einsteinian theory of relativity. Energy and matter are basically two different states of the same thing. You really don't have a distinction there. And that's why there's also a theory of a conservation of matter, conservation of energy, which I think is a little bit strange, actually. But nevertheless, that's how they come to that conclusion about that. Matter and energy are, we treat them as separate. It makes sense to treat them as separate. But really, matter is energy hardened. That's really what it is. Yeah,
and in quantum physics, you can also call it waves and particles. But all energy, you know, is they say is either a wave or a particle, and when it becomes when the wave condenses, and the wave only condenses into particle, like the skis in the back of you, or those objects you're holding up, or our headphones on our heads, it only condenses into these particles because the observing consciousness believes that exists.
Right.
You know, and yet they call this like a morphic field. It's a field of conscious agreement that this exists. You know, I don't understand how that all works. It works with more than just my conscious agreement with it, but somehow this thing that's source is doing it all. You know? So there's nothing that isn't source, and it's all made out of light somehow. All made out, and not the light that we just see in the light bulb or just from the sun, but there's something even more than that. That's the light, you know, that creates. It's pretty amazing, you know, when you think about it. Like, it's all a great big light show. It's all a big movie with actual living, you know, things and objects. And it's like astounding. If we could see it from that perspective, we would be freed, I think, from so much belief in the, quote, reality of everything. You know?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm always trying to work on in my mind anyway, coming to terms with the fact that all this apparent matter is malleable.
Yeah. Malleable.
You know, and I'll be perfectly honest, it still floors me at times. But it really does.
Constantly.
Yeah. But nevertheless, by the same token, I also know my thought process and the thought process of everybody else ends up changing it, transmuting it, doing all kinds of things to produce completely different physical results from what I would have expected. And, you know, so even if I have a hard time believing at times that all of this stuff, this matter, this physical stuff is malleable, I still get examples of it happening every single day. And the hardest part about it, I think, is just recognizing the pattern. That's why so many of us need to have law of attraction as a concept presented to us, because it's not an obvious connection to make. It has to be pointed out to us. I mean, I'm really glad that we've had teachers to do exactly that, because otherwise, I mean, I went through a large portion of my life not making the connection at all. And I was a pretty logical, rational guy throughout that time, but never saw the connection. In fact, if the connection was pointed out to me, I would usually deny it. I'd say, no, that's just, you're just making that up. That's, you're imposing your own thought process on that. It's not really true. It's not logical. It doesn't make any sense. There's no foundational science to back that up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the tricky thing is that thought, if it is creating everything, then it would indicate that there's a lot more malleability than we even know. That we're just sort of like novices. It seems like I feel like I'm a novice, a beginner in understanding how my thought is creating reality, and that I can literally change reality with my thought. It's like, really? But I see that happen every day too.
Now we've got another good question here. This one's from Siraj. He says, I was reading some articles on the law of attraction and meditation and came across two terms, segment intending and reality bending. And he wants us to discuss those.
Mm-hmm. Talk amongst yourselves.
It almost sounds like you're at a test. Okay. Expand and contrast and discuss the topic. Yeah.
Right.
But, segment intending. Segment intending, that one's right out of Abraham Hicks. Tom, you're probably the best expert. Do you want to talk about what segment intending is?
Segment intending is amazing. It's helped me so much in my life. I used to, next to appreciation, I've felt that it was one of the most powerful things I've ever done. And that is, let's say that you're going to a party and you're driving there, and on the way you can say to yourself, I think I'm going to intend that this evening at this party I experience, and then start naming the things you want to experience. That's segment intending. So you could say, well, I want to have some really awesome conversations tonight. I would like to actually have a chance to meet most all the people at the party. So I'm going to intend that I have good conversations with almost everybody. And let's say there's only 10 people there. And I'm going to intend tonight that I laugh a lot. I have a lot of humor. And I'm going to intend tonight that I don't drink more than 2 glasses of wine or whatever. That I only eat 2 pieces of cake, not 4. And so segment intending is just going into any segment of your day. You can do it when you first wake up in the morning. You can do it at 10 a.m. You can do it again at noon. Do it before you go into a meeting. You could do it before you get on this podcast. You can intend and say what experience you want to have. And it's a powerful thing because I've found it so many times. It just goes down just like I intended. That's what's so cool. Yeah. And in places in the past where I would have been, say, going to a party and maybe I'm going to be seeing so-and-so, and God, I hope she doesn't, bring up that issue again about what happened with Joe, and that's segment intending in the wrong way, in the way that's going to set me up for that to happen again.
Exactly.
And so I can do the opposite. I can go, God, oh my God, Sylvia's going to be there, and I'm intending that I don't talk to her or whatever. I'm intending that I work that out with her. That I'm going to work out this thing that's been bothering the two of us for 4 years. I'm going to have that conversation tonight. So you make that intention, then it's cool to let it go then. After you make the intention, then just go to the party and have a blast. I find that it's not good for me to keep thinking about it, but sometimes in the middle of the party I go, wow, this is everything I wanted is coming true. It's pretty interesting.
It's kind of spooky, actually.
But I don't do it as much as I used to.
Segment intending is very valuable. I like the reasons and examples you gave. The other thing I'd like to add is segment intending is a wonderful way to help keep yourself into that high vibration place, that really good feeling place. Especially if, like me, you have a history of starting off good and then you find yourself going downhill after a while because you're focusing on the wrong stuff. But when you do a regular process of segment intending throughout your day, doing it 2, 3, 4 times throughout your day, it's kind of like doing a reboot. Restart the day, so to speak. So, you start off good, and then you start to go downhill. You caught the fact that you're going downhill. Do another segment intend for what's going to happen in the next 10, 15 minutes or whatever. Pick yourself back up, and then do the segment intend. And by pick yourself back up, I mean consciously take steps to feel better, because you actually have to do the feeling part before you put out the thought message that you want to put out there to manifest in some way. So, give you an example. When Louise was going through the major medical situation she was going through, I knew that I had to limit my segment intending with her to when I felt good. And a lot of the time with that, I wasn't feeling good. So I would literally take myself aside during the day, and my go-to during that period was to go to a photograph of the two of us when we were visiting Seattle, Washington, back in the early 2000s. And we were really, happy faces and all that kind of thing. So it was a good reminder of what we're like when we're feeling good. And then I would focus on that for a little bit, and then I would segment intend whatever I wanted to segment intend. So what I'm pointing out is it's reminding me to go through my day and find times to get myself to feel better, and then do my segment intend. That's how I get the cycle back onto the right track. And there have been times when I've used it in the simplest things. The one that I can recall most recently was not this past night, but the night before. Louise was awake most of the night. I didn't realize that. And I awoke around, 4 o'clock in the morning, found out she'd been awake. And I could tell the different ways. You know how it is when you're wrestling with something, you're kind of struggling and you're resistant and all that kind of thing. Well, she was demonstrating all of that. And I knew she had to let go of that resistance. I tried to help her, kind of talk through it and so forth, but it wasn't working. She wasn't having it. So I just got myself into the happiest place I could find, and I started imagining her falling asleep and literally sleeping and breathing loudly and all that kind of thing. And do you know, within 10 minutes she was asleep?
Wow. Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. That's reality bending.
Well, that's the other part of it, right? Because we haven't talked about that yet. But reality bending, that's not a term I'm really familiar with, but I can tell what it means. It's pretty obvious what it means.
Right.
I mean, are there particular examples of reality bending you can think of, Alyx, that have occurred in your life recently? I mean, I can think of one big one, but are there anything that you can just bring up as an example?
I guess I reality bend all the time, and I didn't know I was doing it. So, like, when I wake up in the morning and I have, I don't know if that's intention. Well, anyways, so I wake up in the morning and I already have the conversations I know I'm going to have with the nurses that are coming. Like, I already know how it's going to go, what questions they're going to ask, and then they come and that's what we talk about, and those are the questions they ask, and I don't know. And I do that in mostly with when I know I have to interact with someone. That's usually when it happens, or at least that's when I notice it, but I'm probably doing it all the time.
Yeah, you're right. That's when it's most reachable, I think, or most, we remember it most, because we figure, well, maybe I can do something to influence this conversation I'm going to have, or this interaction I'm going to have with somebody.
Yeah.
That's.
But I'm starting to feel less confident in my psychic abilities now that we're talking about this, though.
Why is that?
Because it's more reality bending than it is me predicting the future.
Oh, I see what you mean.
It's like I planned this, not it wasn't happening and I saw it.
It seems like we're always reality bending. It's just that I don't know what we're calling reality, I know that I'm sure I'm always thinking there are certain realities that are fixed, like the bill that I've got to pay, or, my ability on the guitar, I think of these things as having a certain reality, but it's just basically the thoughts I have about it and my limitations I put on it. That's what defines the reality, but the reality can be bent every second probably by our ability to not put things in a box. Much not put such a rigid definition on it that we decide we're limited by that. But if we stop, sit back, that's why it's good to slow down and really ask ourselves, how do I want to approach this, and what really can't be bent here? What can't be altered here? Even if we're having a pain in our body, can it be changed? But what is it going to take to do it? that's a whole other story. To me, it takes a lot of relaxation sometimes, and not trying so hard, and sort of just being with the feeling of the pain in my body, and then asking myself, can that change? Can that morph? Is it malleable? Mm-hmm. Like Walt, like you were saying, Walt, everything's malleable.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of when I was in college, and even shortly after that, you could always tell who the science majors were, particularly the quantum physics majors, because they all wore the same T-shirt. The T-shirt said, "Reality, what a concept." And that pretty much summarized it.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, that was good. So let's see. We need another question.
I think it's your turn, Walt.
All right. Let's see. What can I come up with here? Well, all right. Let's put it very simple. What's the next thing you're going to try to attract into your life?
Ooh.
What's your next deliberate creation? I think I've stumped the panel. Hey, this is
no. I have one. I'm letting Alyx go first.
Oh, okay.
No, you go first because I don't even know.
Oh, okay. I'll say mine is going to be. I'm right now coming up with aspects of who I want to show up, and so I'm sort of rebranding myself, and so I want to pull from my life experience and what I know about where I'm headed and who I am at this point in my life. I want to pull it into a definition of myself. So in a way, I want to create a reality of how I would like the public to see my offering as a life coach and the workshops I'm creating. And it's like, so that's what I'll be looking at after I get off the phone. I'll be looking at, how do I want to create that, And it's an interesting thing to pull that together, because it's completely at my discretion of being honest with myself and being authentic. And then how do I put that out there? Then who's my audience? Who would want to work with me, and how do I want to work with them? So that's reality creation.
Yeah, that's really good. How about you, Alyx? You got anything in mind? What's your next thing to create?
So the next thing I want to deliberately create is I'm trying to get Facebook portals for my whole family. So that's next on the list. I'm thinking for everyone's birthday they get one, and then by the end of the year we'll all be able to communicate with each other. Even though we group chat now, but seeing each other face to face is totally different.
And why Facebook for that?
Well, that's what that's who created it, the Facebook portal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because there are lots of portals. That's why I was wondering, but.
Well, it's an actual. You haven't seen the commercial?
No.
I can't say I have.
Okay.
No. It's a product.
So
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a video chatting device.
Okay.
So you set it up in your home, and it comes with Alexa. So you set it up in your home, and then you use Facebook Messenger to video chat with your other family members or friends or whatever. And it follows you around the room, so you can do everything's hands free. So it's better than, video chatting on your phone or whatever.
Got it. Okay.
Oh, so
but they're expensive.
It's a little camera. It's a little camera that just follows you around the room, and
I guess if you want to simplify it like that, yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay.
I'm also going to create breakfast.
I love it.
And every meal is very interesting creation, because I can look at the refrigerator and the cupboards and everything. So, what do I really want to eat? And make it really interesting, I've been creating some meals lately that are incredible. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. I didn't know food could taste so good.
It's a great point,
put the right things in there. I mean, the other night I was eating this thing. Why didn't I ever make this before? It's so easy to make, But,
it's a really great point, though, because we tend to forget that mundane stuff is still created.
Yeah.
That there's law of attraction still plays a role in it, even if it seems like I just walked across the room and picked something up. There was still a law of attraction element to it. We tend to pretend, we like to pretend that law of attraction is just the magic trick that we do to make something appear out of nowhere. And the rest of the time we're just doing regular stuff. But it's actually involved in everything. And that to me is equally as difficult to remember as trying to remember that all matter is malleable. Mm-hmm. They basically are in the same ballpark, but
that every moment is malleable.
Every moment is. That's right.
You know, so if you're driving from one place to another and you've got 20-minute drive, that entire 20 minutes is malleable. You know, you could do, you know, what you decide to listen to, at least in, you know, in your car, and how you decide to think about where you're going and everything. You know, are you going to do segment intending, or are you going to worry about some problem, or are you going to put on some incredible music, and if so, what? You know, are you going to listen to a talk show, and if so, what?
Yep.
You know, and you have all this fun all day long because you've got all these new segments always coming up that you can do however you want to do it.
Yeah, exactly true. I was thinking what my next deliberate creation is, and actually what is probably the next one, I can't say for sure that it is my next one because I'm still exploring it. I'm still trying to decide whether I really want to pursue this. But I had a conversation with Joel yesterday after the morning podcast, and it was kind of a sort of like a two-person mastermind, and it was also just kind of wide-ranging conversation and really enjoyable. I always love the after calls that I have with him. But in this particular case, he gave me a really interesting idea that he's brought up before, but for some reason it didn't resonate in the past, and this time it resonated. I'm giving consideration to doing some local seminars, actual live in-person seminars, in some way related to the topic of the law of attraction. And I can't really tell you a whole lot more about what I have in mind because I don't really know yet what I have in mind. It's just I'm still exploring it. But well, I can tell you one other thing. I'm thinking of making it about relationships. You know, helping single people get into the kind of ideal relationships they're looking for. But beyond that, I don't have anything more to tell you. I don't know yet. So
I definitely join that with you.
You would join that one? Oh, okay.
I definitely would join that with you.
Well, I'll bring you on as an expert presenter.
You can have me there via satellite.
Yeah, I'll telescreen you in. Yeah. No, I'm actually thinking about doing that. That is part of what I'm thinking about, taking advantage of the technology and you know, live screening people in. I'll have both of you guys come in and say hello, you know, because I really think that the more people hear from, especially when it's a new concept to them, the easier it is to start understanding and buying into it and using it and applying it in your life. I'm still not sure how it's all going to look, but the more I look at it, I have to say it's very intriguing. So stay tuned for more details.
Well, I've got to talk with you because that's what I'm creating is live workshops, and I'm using a really good book called The Circle Way and another one called World Cafe to learn different methods of interacting with your audience that are highly interactive. You know, they really get everybody involved in the discussion in a really integral way, and you create the collective field with the group so that it becomes a really alive. You know, so a third thing emerges from the whole group of, you know, a consciousness of learning that is really cool. I mean, you know, because it's you're setting it up that way. You're facilitating the audience's discussion in a really proactive way where it really encourages everybody's participation and everybody's creativity to come forward. And I love that. I love that thought of making the workshops revolve around that. Just like here, you know, where, I mean, in a way, if we had a better interactive way with our audience, we could be involving them even more in this discussion.
Yeah,
of course, it reaches a point where it gets unwieldy if it's.
I mean, well, it does, but nevertheless, I like the fact that we do get the interaction we do get during the live streaming. Particularly for people who are commenting. And I'm like you. I'm always looking for ways to increase that. Anything that I can do along that line, that we can do along that line, I'm definitely in favor of. I still don't know what I want to do with it, with this new concept. I mean, this idea of doing something in the community. I know that I don't want it to be just me giving a talk. I can do that, but that's really not what I have in mind. I have something more along the line of like a conference where you have multiple speakers coming in, both live and telescreen. But I don't have it. It's not more than that yet. That's as far as I've gotten.
Right. Yeah. Well, it sounds good so far.
Yeah. I mean, it's intriguing to me. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
And
I like how you're trying to reach the younger audience because that's where that's where we all started, you know,
Absolutely.
That's where I was introduced in my 20s. So.
Because of relationship issues, that's how you got introduced to law of attraction?
No, my boss was she showed me the DVD of The Secret.
Oh, okay.
That's how I got introduced.
That's another thought that Joel gave me, actually. I had it, but he also gave it to me. He has a long-standing policy. Whenever he gets a new client, he gives them a copy of The Secret. He buys, he buys used copies in bulk. And he told me yesterday he has bought over the years over 2,000 copies of The Secret and distributed it.
Wow.
I mean, can you imagine? Like, holy cats.
Talk about keeping them in business.
Yeah, really. So, yeah. And he just buys them, bulk loads of them. But I was thinking, maybe not the book. I was thinking maybe get copies of the movie, because there are lots of copies of the movie, too. So maybe get copies of the movie. And, you invite people to this seminar, and part of their entry fee is they get a copy of the movie. So something along that line. I don't know. But more to come. I still have to kind of feel this out and do some research and figure out who the speakers would be and what we're going to talk about and
iron out some details.
Who's the audience and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And try to do all that without actually planning it and just letting it come. See, that's the hard part for me.
Let it come to you.
Just let it come. Yeah. So
you might want to check out the website of the World Cafe as to see how they organize their seminars and conferences. It's
okay.
I mean, it's a method used all over the world now by giant corporations down to civic organizations, but it's a wonderful way to involve everybody in a really integral way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Very good.
Cool.
We have a few minutes left. I want to make sure I get our announcements in. Are you subscribing? How come you're not? Come on, subscribe. That's how you get all the good episodes coming to your smartphone every day. It's really easy. The links are in almost every place where this podcast is being posted. If you don't see the link, just go to the homepage of the website, loatoday.net, and just pick your particular advice, click it. It'll walk you through the process of being a subscriber. And then once you're a subscriber, share with people that you know who you think might be interested. That you're listening to the podcast. Tell them why you like it so much. Tell them why you think it's useful. How it's helped you in your own life. Tell that kind of story, because we want to keep spreading the word and helping more and more people get their daily doses of happy. And Tom, for somebody who's looking for life coaching, that's what you do for a living. How do they reach out to you?
Yeah. You can go to my website, which is youarejoy.com. That's the 3 words, youarejoy.com. And then on there, there's a page they can fill out their information for a free half hour of coaching. So, it often turns into an hour, but if someone wants to check out my coaching, they can have some time with me and then see if they would like to do more. No expectation. And maybe in that half an hour, learn some cool things.
Always a good
Have
stuff.
some good experience. Yeah.
And Alyx, what's going on with you? I mean, I know you have your TV show podcast. Do you have any upcoming episodes to tell about, or anything else you want to tell about that's going on that people should know about?
I'm doing an episode next week. There's a list of CW cancellations that are upcoming, so that should be interesting.
CW cancellations. You're going to have to, for those of us who are not rabid TV viewers, you're going to have to do a little translating.
CW is a channel. It used to be the Warner Brothers channel, but now it's I don't even know what CW stands for.
Country Western?
No, it's not Country Western.
You're not a Country Western comedian?
Not at all. But it's the channel that has like a Supernatural, Supergirl, all the superheroes are on that channel. So there's like 17 cancellations that are coming up. So we're going to talk about that.
And how do people subscribe to your podcast?
You can find me on, what's it called?
I don't know.
Anchor.fm.
Anchor.fm.
You can go to Anchor.fm and find me there. The show is called Spoiler Alert, or you can go to Spotify. I'm also on there, and I'm also on Google Play.
All right, good. Yeah, I've been making sure we're in a lot of places too. I'm on Spotify now. I'm trying to get into Pandora and a few other places so that we can be found everywhere on Earth. And that's a very good thing. Everywhere. All right.
And everywhere in the universe.
In the universe, yes. Douglas Adams, do you hear us? So, yeah. So this has been great. Thank you very much, guys, and thanks for the very insightful questions, both from our audience and from our wonderful panel. And hope you guys have a great weekend coming up.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
Woohoo!
And we'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.